Okay, this is about a summer fun science experiment for kids. However, things can happen and significant harm could occur to a child's health. The parents should supervise them closely while conducting this experiment. Safety first, and if you're not a parent watching this, you want to get your parents. You should be at least 18 years old, or you should be acting under adult supervision to do this experiment, please. And by the way, parents, if you want your kids to get further into research, they can go into that link there at the bottom of the page, whattolearn.com/homeopathy.htm. Thank you. And of course, I assume no responsibility for injury or loss or damage. Now, before we get started, it's always a good idea to do some preparation, to read up on something or watch a video about something. So I've listed two things here. One is a video about Dr. Luc Montagnier's research on water memory. There's a link there, but there's also a link in the description below, a clickable link. Because I'm not sure I can put a clickable link on my video. I'm going to try, but we'll see. Anyway, so his work on water memory relates directly to the field of homeopathic medicine and homeopathic drugs. The second link is some agricultural research done by some scientists in which they did a similar experiment. So you might want to just read that abstract. It's not very long. And so that you're kind of familiar with what you might expect during the experiment. Okay. This is, as it says, experiment number 1. Alrighty, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be treating some seeds with a special solution that I'm going to show you how to make to see if they grow better in salt water than a control group of seeds. Okay. And here's a list of what you'll be needing. You probably have all of this at home already. The two things that you may not have would be some alfalfa seeds and some distilled water. You can buy a gallon of distilled water in the supermarket for about less than $2, I would think. All right, everything else, if you don't have it, you'll have to pick it up, but I think you probably do. You definitely need a notebook and a pen, because as a good researcher, you want to be able to record your results and record all the preparations that you made. And by the way, beans, if you use beans for this experiment, they probably are going to germinate more slowly than the alfalfa seeds. I'm not sure. But beans are a little more difficult to work with because we're going to be setting these seeds in wet paper towel. And I haven't tried it with the beans, but maybe you're going to end up needing to use soil for the beans if that's what you want. Otherwise, alfalfa seeds probably cost you, I don't know, $3 or $4 at the health food store, okay? Alrighty, safety first. You want to wear gloves, rubber gloves, and goggles or eyeglasses at all times during the experiment. There are reasons for this. You're actually going to be making a homeopathic drug, and if that gets on your skin, it can soak right into your system and cause you some problems. Anyway, we'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, you want to write down and date everything you do and how you do it. Take photos if possible. Make a video if possible. Put it online. And ultimately, you're going to make a final report of your findings. Okay? So, safety first. Now, in phase 1 of the experiment, you're going to be preparing an extreme dilution of what is called Natrum Muriaticum. That's what homeopathic physicians and researchers call it. It is common salt that is diluted so far that there's no salt left in the water. And you'll wonder how that works, why it should be a drug at that point, why it should do anything at that point except be water. Well, if you watched that video earlier about Dr. Luc Montagnier, you begin to understand how it does work. Anyway, it's easy to do. You just have to follow procedure. The way you do this is you carefully clean one of your soda bottles and rinse it very thoroughly. And you want rinsed it out with plain tap water, you want to rinse both the cap and the bottle again with a little bit of distilled water. And then you put about a half teaspoon of salt into the bottle, and you add 2 cups of distilled water. Okay, you cap it up tightly so that nothing leaks out when you're about to shake it. You cap it tightly and you shake it so that you dissolve all the salt. And by the way, as a scientist, when you get more advanced, you want to be very precise about the amounts of salt and the amounts of water you use. But for our purposes, we're just using some rough measurements, all right? Now, as I mentioned earlier, you don't want to get this on your skin. And from this point on, it's really important, because at this point, you're beginning to make the actual drug. And it has effects. Natrum Muriaticum can cause your body to lose water because we use it to treat edema in medicine. It can also have some other effects, and you just don't want those effects. So make sure you wear gloves and goggles. And by the way, what I do, and this can be a little dangerous, especially for young kids, I take a large garbage bag and I cut out a hole in it for my head and holes in it for my arms, so that I cover my body and I wear long sleeves, okay? So if anything splashes out during this process, the stuff doesn't get on me. But it's up to you. As I say, that's a little risky, having kids around plastic bags that way. If you should happen to have an accident and there's some spill onto the skin, then you want to wash that off with soap and water right away. Don't worry too much about it, but if you start noticing any unusual symptoms, you would want to see a doctor, okay? Now in this next step, you open the bottle and you're going to dump out what's in the bottle, but you're going to save a couple of drops in the cap. And then you're going to carefully rinse the bottle, not the cap, but rinse the bottle with a little distilled water. Then add a cup of distilled water to the bottle and pour in the couple of drops that you saved in the cap from the previous solution. Then you cap that bottle up tightly and shake it a little to make sure that the liquid captures those 2 drops in the cap, okay? Make sure that cap is on tightly. Then what you want to do is you wrap the bottle sharply on a hard surface about 50 times, and then you take the cap off, you save 2 drops of liquid in it, dump out the rest, and rinse that bottle with the same bottle with a little distilled water. Add a cup of distilled water to the bottle and pour in the couple of drops that you saved, cap it up, shake it a little bit, and to mix in those 2 drops. Next, you want to wrap that 50 times as before, and this is called succussion. This is very important in preparing a homeopathic drug. The succussion is wrapping on a table or a hard surface with it. That's why you use a plastic bottle, not glass. And you continue repeating this dilution and succussion, saving a couple drops each time, rinsing the bottle, adding the fresh distilled water, and you carry that out another 10 times, and you will be at what we call the 12th, or the 12th dilution. By the way, I'm not formally trained as a homeopath. I'm a retired physician. I'm a doctor of Oriental medicine. And some of the procedures here are what you might call quick and dirty, and a lot of homeopaths might not like it that much, but it's always worked for me in clinical practice, medical practice. It works. All right, but we're not using this on people. We're going to be using it on plants. Okay, at that 12th dilution, you save all of that. You don't dump that out. In other words, you don't just save 2 drops. You save everything that's in it. We are now at phase 2 of your clinical research trial. Now what you want to do is prepare your seed populations, or what we call cohorts. That is, one group is called a cohort, and the other is a different kind of cohort. you're going to prepare a control cohort and a treated cohort. Now the control cohort is typically a normal cohort. It's a normal group of people or a normal group of plants in this case. And the idea is to see what would normally happen if we did nothing, and we want to compare that to what happens when we do something. In this case, we're going to make this drug. We made the drug, and we're going to apply it to one group of seeds, one cohort, and the other cohort we're not going to apply the drug to it. And make sure you're keeping notes of everything you do. So, measure out 2 equal amounts of alfalfa seeds, and what you want to do is then rinse out 2 identical clean cups and rinse them out with distilled water. Label 1 cup the treated group and the other cup control group. Add seeds to each cup. Now you're going to use a freshly cleaned soda bottle, not the one you use to make the drug, because that's contaminated. It's contaminated with the drug. Even 1 drop in there is a contamination. So you're using a clean soda bottle, and you add to that soda bottle 1/4 cup of distilled water. Now that's just distilled water, but you're going to cap it up and succuss it. Remember what we said succussion was? It's wrapping hard sharply on a hard surface. Succuss it 50 times, and the reason you're going to do that is because you did the same thing to the last dilution of the drug that you made. Now, when you shake things in air, it absorbs things from the air, and one of those things is oxygen, and that might have some impact on the growth or development of the seeds. So you want to rule that out as a factor. So you're going to give the same treatment to this plain distilled water by succussing it 50 times. And then you're going to pour that water into the control group's cup. Stir the seeds to make them sink with a clean spoon. Next, you're going to add a 1/4 cup of the drug that you made to the seeds in the cup that are labeled treated. Okay, and you stir that with a fresh spoon, just like with the other one, but you use a fresh spoon to make the seeds sink to the bottom. If you don't stir with a fresh spoon, in fact, this panel is wrong. It says stir with a fresh spoon, and it would spoil the experiment. No, stirring with a fresh spoon will not spoil the experiment. It should say, be careful not to splash any of the drug into the control group cup, because that would spoil the experiment. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so stir it and make the seeds sink just like you did the other one, and then you allow the groups to sit in their solutions overnight. Now you need to prepare your test apparatus, and to do that, you first, and by the way, are you still making notes in your notebook at every stage? I hope so. That's what a good researcher does. Okay, rinse out both plastic tubs that you have with plain tap water. And just for the sake of safety, you might ask your parents to help you punch 10 holes in the bottom of each plastic tub. That'll help drain excess fluid out of them. Then you fold a paper towel twice over into a square, and you kind of stuff it down one square down into the plastic tub. Okay, and then you do it with a second paper towel the same way in the other one. All right. Next, you want to pour 2 cups of tap water into each of the plastic tubs and let it drain through the paper towel. That helps to get rid of impurities that might mess up your experiment. After you drain, after you drain them, label 1 tub control and the other one treated, and then set them in separate, rinsed out plastic bowls. Metal bowls or pie tins or aluminum pans are not recommended because the metal could affect the way the seeds grow. Once you soak the seeds overnight, put each cohort into its proper plastic tub, the control group into its properly labeled tub, and the treated into its properly labeled tub. And then using two separate clean spoons, because you don't want to contaminate, especially you don't want to contaminate the control group with drug from the treated group, right? So, two separate clean spoons, and you use those spoons to spread the seeds out as evenly as you can. And after you've done that, add a cup of tap water to each tub and allow it to drain in the sink. Then you put them back in their plastic bowls. Next, loosely cover each tub with a sheet of paper towel. Place your bowls and your tubs in a dark place. It'll probably take about 3 days. If you're using alfalfa seeds, it'll probably take about 3 days for them to sprout. And each and every day, add a cup of tap water to each and drain it in the sink. Once the seeds have got to be about a ½ inch high, bring them to where they can get daylight, but you don't want to put them in direct sunlight because they might burn. Alright, they'll turn green either that day or the next. And each day you continue adding and draining tap water from what you have. Okay? Now we come to what we call stressing your population. And this is where you're going to be adding salt water to both of them. And you wait until the sprouts are about 1 inch high, and you mix up about a teaspoon of salt with about a ½ quart of tap water, or a pint of tap water, which is the same thing. And shake it and make sure it's thoroughly dissolved. And then you add 1 ounce of that to each of your cohorts in the tub. 1 ounce. And observe and record the effects over the next couple of days. If after a couple of days nothing apparently happens, then you want to make a slightly stronger solution. However, you don't want too strong a solution because you could very suddenly kill both cohorts. You're kind of trying to go up in concentration slowly to see the effect. So the next stage, you could say, take a teaspoon and a half of salt in a pint of water, a ½ quart of water, and make sure you mix that up thoroughly and dissolve it, and then add 1 ounce again to each of your cohorts. And eventually you get to a point where it's going to, well, I'm not going to tell you what the results should be, because you're a scientist, and the experiment is for you to find out, okay? Later, I'll probably put up a video of my experiment and show you what I found. But meanwhile, after you've done this, you're going to record your results and write a report about your conclusions. By the way, you know, you can run more than one experiment at a time. You might try this, let's say instead of salt, try a little bit of bleach or something like that. So, a lot of things you can do here. And it is a fun experiment, and I hope you had lots of fun with this. And if mom and dad feel like they want you to get further into research, we have online at that web address there, whattalearn.com/homeopathy.htm, we have a 40-page ebook. It costs money. I have to pay for my website server, and I have to pay for my ebook server, which is 2 separate things. But anyway, you get it and you study it, but you want to study it under supervision, and anything you do in there, you want to do it with mom and dad's supervision, okay? Well, I hope you had fun, and this is a great field to be in because it's just opening up. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Dennis Hudson, and I hope you enjoy this whole thing all summer.